You get this great introduction here in Austin and everybody, and you go to these Democratic things, and it's James Carville, lad, and he's the, genius du jour and that and everything. And it's a great man. Oh, yes, of course, But I got to tell you, in the interest of disclosure and honesty, which, of course, we here in Washington, and we believe in disclosure and honesty, I got this issue of People magazine. There's a contrary view of James Carville. Political consultant James Carville, who was Bill Clinton's top campaign strategist, is, quote, a pathetic and stupid country bumpkin. So says TV producer Gary Goldberg. He described Carville's spiel at a White House meeting as, quote, a self-aggrandizing, incoherent monologue that sounded like Anthony Perkins playing Fidel Castro on speed. I am a country bumpkin. I mean, what can I say? I mean, I come from Carville, Louisiana. What would you expect?
Democratic campaign strategist James Carville speaking to fellow Democrats on Capitol Hill. It was a few months after leading the war room that got Bill Clinton elected president. May 14th, 1993. James Carville was 49 years old. On October 25th, 2024, James Carville turns 80. If it seems like James Carville has been pouring Cajun spice into the political conversation for decades, you're right. So, to mark his 80th birthday, this episode of C-SPAN's podcast The Weekly presents the best of and some of the most colorful moments from James Carville on C-SPAN.
With the upcoming presidential election this November, C-SPAN is once again providing middle and high school students across the country with a platform to tell us about the issues that are important to them and their generation. Our 21st annual Student Cam documentary competition is now open to submissions and will award $100,000 in cash prizes to the top 150 videos. For more information, visit studentcam.org.
We'll actually return immediately to that May 14th, 1993 event. You heard James Carville mention someone named Austin. That was Austin Hogan, president of the Democratic Issues Group. Here's how he introduced James Carville. He made presentations, and if you're unfamiliar with James Carville, it's a good quick lesson in what he did for the Clinton campaign.
Now, this is our special award here. Let me just read from the text here. This is the Democratic Issues Group presents the 1993 DIG Golden Shovel Award to the Honorable James Carville, a.k.a. the Ragin' Cajun, political strategist extraordinaire, the Golden Shovel for service above and beyond the call.
Well, thank you very much.
Now we have one other gift. Alex, you want to come up? The little background on this gift, as you know, James Carville was the strategist for the campaign 1992, and every evening in Little Rock in the headquarters, he had a 7 o'clock staff meeting, and they went over all the issues and what had developed that day and what would be going on the next day and what they needed to focus in on and so forth. And right behind him, of course, was a famous sign that said, "It's the economy, stupid," which sort of told the story of the campaign. But among other things, during the program, he would select out one or two staffers who had done a particularly good job that day, and he would bring them up in front of the staff and the group and tell all the good things they had done. And then he would give them 2 awards. One was a gold star, which he would sticky and put it right on the forehead so they could wear it all day and people would know that they'd done a lot of good things. And second, he would give a jar of Chef Dan's barbecue sauce. So now we want to give a golden star with the Chef Dan's barbecue sauce to James Carville.
Thank you very much.
You heard him talk about the famous sign from the 1992 Clinton campaign, "It's the economy, stupid." Appearing on C-SPAN's Washington Journal on July 13th, 2012, James Carville gave the backstory. He was on the program to discuss his book, "It's the Middle Class, Stupid."
James Carville, the title of the book clearly came from what you placed in the Little Rock campaign headquarters, "It's the economy, stupid." How did that come about? Why did you put that sign in the campaign headquarters? What's the genesis of it?
Okay, the genesis of it was this, that we had a lot of sort of smart people working there, and people would come in with a lot of smart ideas about a lot of different things. And what I was trying to do was get the campaign more focused, get the people in the campaign more focused, and it was like, it's the economy, stupid. And people coming in with how can we do something about restoring old houses, or, you know, why we need more park space in the United States. And I mean, it's all good, worthy things, but it's not, you know, where we should be focused. And the reason that we went to the middle class, stupid, is because in '92 we thought the economy should be the filter through which everything we did went. In this instance, we're saying it should actually be the restoration of the middle class.
20 years earlier, on September 20th, 1992, during the height of the presidential campaign, James Carville made one of his first appearances on a C-SPAN call-in program.
James Carville, senior advisor to the Clinton-Gore campaign, joining us from Little Rock, Arkansas. When we talked during the New Hampshire primary, there were questions on the draft issue and Governor Bill Clinton. It's coming up again, making headlines in papers across the country this morning. Does that surprise you?
No, I mean, nothing. Any time that there is not a diversion in a presidential campaign, it would surprise me if the media were reporting what was going on in the economy or what was going on in health care, what was going on in ordinary people's lives. But the fact that they accentuate on ancillary issues of something that happened 23 years ago really doesn't surprise me. It's a pretty traditional coverage of a presidential election.
From your standpoint, have the media been fair to the Clinton campaign?
Oh, you know, I mean, I'll tell you something, the media's been a lot fairer to the Clinton campaign than the Bush administration's been to the American people, I'll tell you that. I mean, the real grief is not the way the media treats the Clinton campaign, it's what this administration has done to ordinary working people around this country and what they've done to people who are trying to make it. That's what the real beef is. I don't think the media is an ancillary sort of sideshow to what's going on in this country.
As for Bill Clinton's thoughts on James Carville, on October 9, 2001, they appeared together at the Kennedy Center, part of a Distinguished Speaker series. Former President Clinton noted this fun fact about their joint heritage and a possible joint political future.
You may not know this, but both Carville and I are eligible to run for president of France. True story. Under the French Constitution, true story. You know, this is a true story. He's from Louisiana, and I'm from Arkansas. And they were both part of the Louisiana Purchase that Thomas Jefferson bought from Napoleon. And under the French Constitution, if you were born in a place that ever, at any time in all history, was part of the French Empire, if you live in France for 5 months and you can speak French, we'd have to brush up a little, you are eligible to run. So I don't know how many of you have seen the Élysée Palace. And it's a real job, you know, the president of France. So Carville and I were thinking of just moving there in a couple of years and running against each other and then giving the other one a guest room. I think it's a great...
James Carville's legend in Democratic circles actually was cemented a year before Bill Clinton won the presidency. In 1991, Democrat Harris Wofford won a special election for the Pennsylvania Senate seat, left vacant following the death of Republican John Hines. Harris Wofford came from behind to defeat Republican and former Attorney General Dick Thornburgh. From his victory speech, here's Harris Wofford, November 5th, 1991.
Part of the best campaign team I've ever seen, led by Paul Begala and his part. And his inimitable partner, James Carville, who I think is out there. Where's James? James. The colorful James Carville.
By the way, James Carville's first speaking appearance on C-SPAN came 2 days later, a November 7th, 1991 post-election forum hosted by the political publication The Hotline. He explained why Harris Wofford won.
First thing that happened in politics, at any time, if you have a candidate that really wants it and has a superior message against a reluctant candidate that has no message, you can generally win. And that would have happened at any time. And I think there's a danger that we probably read too much in it. But having said that, you certainly, you know, can read something beyond that in this election. I prefer I hear a lot of people in Washington talking about anger. I think voters are more frustrated and apprehensive than there is anger. I mean, they're frustrated in their lives, they're frustrated that government doesn't act on their interests. But I think too much has been paid attention to the sort of events, and Wofford just turned out to be a hell of a candidate. I mean, he stayed, driven. He stayed on the message. He didn't make any errors, and that's a very, very rare thing in a first-time candidate. And once you get, it's only happened to me one other time before, and I mean, you just ride it like in '87 in the Wilkinson race. You come up and you start riding. You can see it coming. I mean, he got on a wave, and that was it.
On November 9th, 1995, James Carville spoke to students at Princeton University and the Woodrow Wilson School of International Affairs.
Do we say that, gee, I have it made, it's not my problem? Or do we say, damn it, this country is worth fighting for? The principle of the generational promise is worth fulfilling. And I am not going to let anybody say, at a time that our basic institutions, our basic philosophy, our sense of decency and our sense of national purpose is under attack, that I sat by and just went down to Princeton Township and did nothing more than pull a lever. That's your choice. I think I know what you're going to do. I think that I know that you people and people like you around this country want to not just fight back, but you want to fight for something. You want to fight for this nation. You want to fight for its people. You want to fight for its children. But most importantly, you want to fight for its future. We have big battles coming up here the next year or two. I'm going to count on you. Thank you.
A year later, James Carville spoke to college students again, this time American University, November 4th, 1996, the day before the presidential election.
Most other people in life suffer their failures in private. So make no mistake about it. I ain't apologizing to no one for what I did for a living or what I want to do for a living, and you shouldn't either if you want to go into politics. But they will come at you in a lot of different ways to kill your spirit. They will come at you in a lot of different ways to destroy your resolve. They will come at you in a lot of different ways to take you and tell you that you don't want to be involved, that it's just a dirty business. The first way they come at you, they won't come at you this much because they generally don't come at kids like you, but the first thing is you don't matter. It's all some great conspiracy out there, and what difference does it make what piddling little old you thinks or says or does? And so the best thing for you to do is you just lay back, don't care, let other forces that just are going to, maybe in some sort of benign thing, they'll do a couple of things to you, for you, and your life might be a little better. But why worry about it? Just be some kind of lounge lizard, a couch potato, I don't know, whatever they call it.
And now, some jokes. James Carville recently wrote in the New York Times, "I've always believed that one good joke is worth 100 fact checks." So, let's hear James Carville tell jokes. In 2004, he joined his wife, Mary Madeline, for a book talk. She had just published Letters to My Daughters. Mary Madeline spoke first, then her husband read 2 Cajun jokes from the book.
Cajuns laugh at everything, and the more morbid the topic, the greater the humor. This is first what we call a basic wife setup joke. Boudreaux came up to Thibodeau and said, "Thibodeau, I got some good news and bad news." Thibodeau says, "What's the bad news?" Boudreaux replies, "Your wife Marie, she be found in a bayou. She done pass away." Thibodeau, "Oh my God, that's pretty bad. What's the good news, Boudreaux?" "Well, when you found her, she had over a dozen crab on her, so in another hour we're gonna make another run." This is probably my favorite joke, one of my favorite jokes ever. This is the basic husband setup. Boudreaux was on his last dying breath. He was upstairs in the waterbed, was about to slip out of this world when he smelled it.
The most wonderful smell, brownies baking in the oven downstairs. He struggled out of the waterbed. He could not stand up, so he crawled over the stairway and rolled down the stairs. He crawled in the kitchen and pulled himself up to the counter where the brownies were cooling on the rack. He took one, he put it in his mouth. Ah, that wonderful smell, that wonderful taste. Marie walked up behind him and says, "Shame on you, Boudreaux, these brownies for after the funeral."
And now, a bonus clip. And speaking of Mary Madeline, it's time to hear from James Carville's wife. The former Republican strategist has been a frequent sparring partner, speaking together in both serious political forums and comedy-heavy events. Like the time in 1996, both were roasted at a charity fundraiser to benefit the Stanley Scott Cancer Center. The Cancer Center is affiliated with Louisiana State University. That's James Carville's alma mater, and that's where the roast was held. From April 3rd, 1996, here's Mary Madeline.
For Yankees, it's a tad of a peculiar political state. I was first noting the politics of this state when I heard your former governor say I could only lose if I was caught with a dead girl or a live boy. I know this is an old one to you, but for us Yankees, I had to think about that for a minute. But then, of course, I began dating James, and when I met his family and learned of his dating history, Ali aside, of course, which was a new revelation to me tonight, his family was quite surprised that he had brought home a girl who he could transport across the state line. So he's come a long way from little girls to a woman whom he says would boss a rock, which isn't very nice, honey. But he loves to give back, and that's why I love him. He loves to give back to his state. He particularly loves to give back to his alma mater, Louisiana State University, which honored him amazingly with an honorary doctorate degree and a place in the Louisiana State University Hall of Fame. This to a man who worked to his true and full potential as a scholar, receiving consecutively 56 hours of Fs.
Now, a reminder you can do your own James Carville searching in the C-SPAN video library. Find more of what James Carville has said and what has been said about James Carville. Like this, also from that 1996 LSU roast. Speaking just before Mary Madeline, former Clinton strategist and now ABC News anchor, George Stephanopoulos.
Many of you probably don't know this, but I'm sure my Greek friends in the audience tonight will be interested to know that James is also a Greek scholar. I'll never forget the day in the war room. He was laying back on the couch, and he said, "Yeah, George, let me tell you about this. The very word politics is Greek. It comes from the Greek word poli, which means many, and ticks, which are blood-sucking insects." But now James has pretty much left politics behind. He's a movie star. He's doing feature films with Larry Flint, starring in national commercials. But, you know, I was there at the beginning. When this all started, James gave me a bit part in the documentary The War Room. That was really a breakthrough performance for James. We got great notices everywhere. The New York Times said he was a genius. The film got nominated for an Academy Award. And that epitome of the Eastern establishment, The New Yorker, wrote a review of James and the movie, which I still can't believe. And this is true. It said, "Not since James Dean." Don't laugh. It said this. James Carville is one of the most riveting screen presences of our time. As for me, Stephanopoulos ably fills the role of Robin to Carville's Batman. You know, being in a movie as James Carville's sidekick is a little like being Dolly Parton's feet. I'm sure they're perfectly nice feet, but they tend to get overshadowed by her more prominent features.
That's it for this episode of C-SPAN's The Weekly. We'll end with a note that also in October, CNN is debuting a documentary called Carville, Winning is Everything, Stupid. Here at C-SPAN Radio, we like to say it's the podcast stupid. Thanks for listening, happy searching, and in honor of James Carville's birthday, our exit music, the LSU Fight Song.